Good morning. I run business development for Westfield Labs. We are a division of Westfield Malls. If you're not familiar with Westfield, we're actually a global shopping center company with malls in the US, the UK, Australia, and Italy come 2018. Probably the biggest project we're working on now that's relevant to the New York market is World Trade Center. So if you've been down there to see that development, there's a what's called the Oculus, kind of a spiny looking building that's actually kind of going up in real time right now, where we think that's going to be a pretty, if you can put amazing building and mall in the same sentence, I think that's one of the places you can do it. But we have, I think from a platform perspective, we reach over 1.1 billion shoppers on an annual basis. So certainly there's a lot of opportunity for us to influence shopping as it's changing. So a couple of trends, obviously I'm preaching to the converted, but we certainly see brick and mortar going digital. That doesn't mean they're just putting up websites, but people are really thinking about their omni-channel strategies. Macy's, for example, just came out with kind of their entire strategy laid out, from apps to their websites to how they're looking at things like same-day delivery and fulfillment. All these things are happening and happening rapidly. And then obviously we're seeing digital go physical. So obviously as we're in the mall or the aggregator of a lot of retail business, we're seeing companies that are obviously traditional online business or were born out of the internet now look to actually have a physical presence, because as peers are saying, still 90% of retail is done offline, and I think more and more it's just about commerce. It's no longer offline commerce, not about online commerce. And I think us as a consumer, we're not thinking about, okay, now I'm offline or now I'm online. In fact, as I'm shopping, I'm using my phone, I'm using my tablet if I'm sitting there before I go to the store. I want to know what kind of inventory is available. All those different things kind of play into this overall strategy. And so that's why we created Westfield Labs at Westfield. So we're a 2-year-old group, and our focus is simply to bring digital technologies into our physical shopping environment. As we see all these trends changing, we know that as a consumer, you're going to want to interact with our retailers in a different way. And we want to also set up our centers so that our retailers have the best opportunity to capture those shoppers, both before they come into the center and then while they're there. So one of the big things that I was asked to talk about this morning was connected glass, or what we call at Westfield digital storefronts. And so we've done a couple of, we're big on pilots at Westfield Labs, so trying and failing fast. Obviously in the physical space, failing is less of an option when you have to tear down a building. And so one of the pilots that we've been really looking at is around digital storefronts, and how can we bring to life, whether they're brands that are already in the center that we just want to bring to life in a different way, or again, maybe some of these traditionally online brands that we want to bring into a physical environment, but do it in a way that still represents the digital nature of their brand. So we did, last fall in San Francisco Center, we did a pilot with eBay's Innovation Lab, whereby we took Tom Shoes, Rebecca Minkoff, and Sony Electronics, and basically created 3 digital storefronts in the center. So what that means is we took 3 open storefronts, we essentially turned the glass on those storefronts into giant iPads. When we did that using some rear projection technology and some film that went on the back of the glass. And what that did was it enabled people to come up to the glass, browse the product categories from those retailers, all the way actually down to the point of purchase. So obviously nobody's going to want to put their credit card up on a piece of glass in front of a bunch of people. So at the point at which somebody was interested in buying that product, they would put in their phone number on the screen. You'd then get a text message and finish the transaction on your phone. So really interesting kind of version 1.0 of this. A lot of work to get it up and running. But I think a couple things we saw in this, and there's definitely this discovery desire from a lot of people. We didn't expect a lot of purchases when you're already in a center full of instant gratification, where you can just go down to the next store and buy something. But we did see a lot of discovery, and a couple of stats. We actually had Connect cameras that sat above these storefront windows, so we could not just track foot traffic, but also the people who turned and faced up to the screen. So we saw anywhere between 15 and 20% of the people who actually walk by the storefronts turn and face up and look at it. And of the people who turned to face and look at it, half those people then got onto the glass itself and started to play with it. So some pretty interesting metrics as well. Another note was one of the 3 brands that we had running here also actually had a physical storefront elsewhere within our center, and we benchmarked the traffic before and after in terms of how that might affect their overall traffic, and we saw about a 20% lift from the area where we were running the storefronts down to their physical store as a result of having the digital storefront to complement what they were doing. So version 2.0 is something we've done ourselves. It's launched out at Garden State Plaza, which is about 20 minutes outside of New York. So this is a freestanding, double-sided 3-panel display, and I'll give you an idea of the scale here. But it's pretty massive, and it not only allows for, and again, it's similar kind of iPad type browsing. You can go up and scroll and swipe. You can have vertical images. You can make an image completely horizontal. We launched this with content from about 30 retailers, not just showing the content on screen, but ultimately then having the ability to wayfind, or so to speak, or show people where within the mall they could then go to check out that store. So a lot of functionality that we believe we can put into this. And a couple of findings here. One is obviously given the size of this, but just the novelty and the experience factor. A lot of groups were getting on the glass. They weren't just one person. Certainly younger people tended to be less intimidated by the fact that we had these big screens. In San Francisco, for example, when we did the first eBay pilot, we literally had to put physical signs out there that said, hey, you can go touch this. If one person was on there, that kind of invited everybody to go, but if the storefront was standing empty, people just didn't know to go and touch it. And 3, there's a lot of watching and people standing in the background trying to figure out what these things are all about. But bottom line, generating interest in something new and different. And I mean, it speaks to the example of we need to, you talk about kind of the manifesto for the new store. There's also a manifesto for the new mall. And we're very much trying to work with our retail partners and obviously connect with our consumers in different ways to do that. So, some of the benefits beyond the obvious in terms of that interactivity, there's certainly an opportunity to showcase more inventory. Everybody talks about the endless aisle. Certainly the ability to do some of that here, and again, point people to where your store is, or even just have them shop online. Reward loyalists, and that's obviously when you take these storefronts to the next level. Can you connect them through beacons? Can you connect them by understanding who they are, so when they walk up to the glass, they have a personalized experience, not just a general experience. And then again, there's ultimately the idea that you're going to delight customers. The reason people are going to keep coming to the store, coming to the mall, is because they want an experience. They want a physical experience. They want to interact with people. But they want to be surprised and delighted, and obviously their expectations are only going up, whether that's, again, in the common mall or in the physical store itself. So in terms of where this is going, I mean, there's a lot of different directions, and I think we're at the very, very early stages still. We talked about the product search. Again, endless aisle. There's a lot of different ways that you can start to put products up there. We've done some things around putting images up, obviously having points on those images to actually highlight and swipe and open and then see more information about that product. 3D imagery, some of those things where you can actually turn the product around. Certainly that was in the common mall area. There's a ton of opportunity, we think, within the store itself as a complement to some of the other standard, more physical assets within that store. We've had a ton of interest, especially from brands who are looking to go from online to offline to incorporate a lot of those technologies into their physical store. And then again, it's a social mechanism, right? If you can get multiple people kind of using this and playing with this and getting used to that functionality, they get an experience that they also want to share with their friends and their peers. So I think really in closing, and again, I'm sure all of you know these brands. These are all the brands that are making that move from online to offline. It's only growing every day. It's certainly the flavor of the month in the press right now. And from our perspective, we're certainly trying to adapt our model to be able to be a relevant place for a lot of these brands to come in and want to showcase their space with us.